Hello everyone.
Hi, Hrvoje.
Igor is engaged in the audit, and Ivana will join us in a minute, so let's wait for her before we start. Marcella, we'll be talking about mostly about these project analysis today, just for your information. I believe you're traveling this week?
No, I'm traveling next week, but today I need to leave at 2 because I have a regular TC with online.
I don't think this will take longer than 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Ivana, whenever she joins, we just can't wait any longer. It's already 5 minutes past the time. So thank you so much for joining. I know you're all very busy. There's just a couple of things I would like to discuss with you, basically touch base with you. One of the reasons being now, I have received, as you might have noticed, some questions regarding the performance and the efficiencies, and these questions will be becoming more and more important in the future. So this is one part of that being this report that Anna the project analysis team has been preparing in the past, and the other thing is actually what we have done following our previous discussions in terms of the organizing the workflow and measuring the performance. Okay, so this is just for me to share with you that I have some doubts regarding the data that is being entered in ISIS, and my concern is that because of the way the data is entered, because of the way this has been calculated and including this current template of the board report, I can't really fully trust or interpret what is presented there. So what I will do, as soon as I find time, ideally this week, if not when I'm back in July, I will sit down with Anna Stupar and see exactly what she's doing and how she's manipulating this data from assets. I know from my previous experience, every time I wanted to check something in more details, I found some errors, not errors in doing the mathematical um, uh, things, but errors in basically mixing apples and oranges and mixing the data that are not really logical to be mixed from the pharmacovigilance perspective, that gives us the false results, false interpretations. So actually, what I wanted to tell you is, you have any suggestions in terms of what would you like to see or what you think should be included in these reports? Now is the time to propose it, because we're going to change this template. We're going to change this template, and also as another reminder, I don't think it's ever going to be enough of reminders regarding the ISIS, and now about the fact how it's important that this data is entered correctly and on time, especially when we have so many new guys coming on board, and they maybe are not familiar, they don't understand, and they don't receive the training. So I encourage you to speak with all your project managers to make sure that they first of all, they fully understand and are in the agreement with the SIS codes for their projects. That means that they correspond to the business, to the budget, and that they are fully aware of what is meant by these codes, so they could then basically help and support the team to enter this information correctly. Just to give you one of the most recent examples, as per the calculations being done for April, that was last month, we have some projects where we spend on average 8, 6, 7, 8 hours per case, and there is no way that Jan or I can explain to board that this is okay, because it's not. It's never going to be okay. So I think that there is something wrong with the calculations there.
Yeah, I think, so, sorry Hrvoje to interrupt, I think one big issue there, at least for my project that I see, is that there are some activities that are charged or invoiced after the fact, after that month in May or June or July. So basically we need to make sure that these calculations they're looking into what's invoiced as well. I know for a fact for some projects like legacy data is invoiced at the end, and then we spend a lot of time which is in the ISIS, and we've invoiced one case, so it looks like we've kind of spent 8 hours per case, which in fact is not true, because we will invoice at a later stage. So, and that's same for the DSUR development and some other tasks. So I definitely think we need a system in place to kind of mitigate that risk as well of providing false data, because for example, Endosite was one of these projects where we had like 8 hours per case, but this is not entirely true because we haven't invoiced all that we did. So I think what they should look at is not what we've invoiced, but rather what is in the actual data, the outputs from the database, the cases approved within the set period, and then use that for their per case calculations. I think currently they're looking into what has been invoiced. So if you have 10 cases processed per month times, and then you've spent 100 hours, they would calculate 10 hours per case. When in fact, it might be that you've processed 50 cases, but you haven't invoiced 40 of them. So I think we need to look into the actual cases processed or approved within the database, rather than what has been invoiced. So that could be one way to have more.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is a couple of things here. I think they kind of simplified it and then just used the invoice data, because what is invoiced, it's certainly what has been done. The gray area here is that many times we are doing other things which are not chargeable, and people don't have the specific codes for this. Let's say, I'm just providing the very first thing that comes to my mind is we have a data corrections or data cleanup. Maybe we just use this. People just use the same code, and we add time, but it's not really giving us the full picture of what exactly is being done. It's a little bit more difficult for these aggregate reports, because they are typically take more time and take time over the months or a few months, and then gives you basically the wrong picture every time, either positive or negative, and then you have to explain. I mean, this is the way it is now. And you can see if can be changed, at least for case processing for the future, which would basically mean that they would need to get data for the project managers. And
yeah, for RG7 it's easy. We have a report that can be pulled every month to provide the exact number of approved cases within the month.
The other thing is basically to look at the longer period, you know. If you look at the whole idea of the approach is that eventually this will all be kind of come into equilibrium, because some months you will basically charge more and the others less, and then eventually in the longer period that will be giving a more precise picture, which is true to a certain extent, but it's not going to be ever very precise. So let's whatever we can do and propose. That's now is the time. I'm just thinking aloud, but then I will also look with Anna. I just need to sit next to her to see what she's exactly doing. My biggest problem in the past was that this has never been QC'd. I challenged this a couple of times. Every time the answer was we don't have enough resources. But you know, we are taking these serious decisions and analyzing, spending time analyzing it on the basis of the data, which I don't think anyone can really fully rely on or trust. And we need to change this. We need to work with Anna and change this. Also, there is another thing. I think everything should be put in the context of the actual profitability of the project, and this is something that I know Tomasz is working on developing a standard approach to calculate the profitability. And we haven't got it yet because he's doing other things. But once we have that in place, then we will be able to put everything in the context and have, you know, more informative decisions. For some project which would be easier, let's say, I guess the case processing projects like the Team 2, I think this is where I expect to see the biggest improvement the fastest, because we only have pretty much a limited number of activities, and we need to be able to see what's going on, and we need to be able to calculate this precisely and in real time. For other projects which are more complex, but again, I believe each project manager should be able to identify the most important chunks, the most important part of the project, which have the biggest influence in terms of the efficiency. Sometimes that's case processing, sometimes it's not. Case processing is classical and will always be looked first, because this is the first thing that the board will be asking, that they're asking. So again, Lena, that's for the minutes. You have seen that report. You know how it looks. You know your ESIS data. You know the process. I'm thinking I have already a couple of things I would like to propose, but I want to also to basically brainstorm and provide me your inputs and questions and suggestions what you think should be or could be done in order to have better quality of data, better control, and basically again, more simplified and more effective process. Now, we discussed in the past, and I know that you know that I requested to take a look and ensure that we have some kind of the very simple reports on a monthly basis that we can go back to the team and provide the feedback about their performance for the previous month. Again, case processing is an example, but could be applied for any significant activity. So what I wanted to achieve is to have project teams always in a position to be fully and absolutely aware about their performance for the previous month, and to see what exactly that means in the context of the contracted hours. So very simple. How much time per case we're spending currently, how much time per case was contracted, and then sometimes, not always, but sometimes it also makes sense to agree a kind of a project-specific case processing time that we believe it's realistic. because of two things. Sometimes, as we already discussed, the project case processing allocated time and budget is just not sufficient because of different reasons. Some historical, sometimes we just want to get the price down. And also it's important for the teams to have that idea of the goal, where are they going. Most of our teams are consisting of very young guys who just started, and we need to guide them, we need to be able to show them the goals and where as a team they are on an ongoing basis. So to prevent lack of to prevent situations which are already happening and will happen more and more in the future, where we would be able to, or wouldn't be able to defend the number of FTs that we have in the project. So as you know, my position always is that I don't really want to have overtime hours for our people. This should be really extraordinary situations when we need overtime. And people should be able to finish most of the tasks within the working hours with some minor deviations which should be really covered routinely. And that means we need to have enough resources, but we can only defend that resources if we are efficient. If you're not efficient, at some point we just would not be able, and we shouldn't be able to just add resources to do the job, because we need to put this in the balance. That means enough resources, hard work, and then no overtime and efficient outputs. I'm fully aware, having said this, I'm fully aware of the situation, and this is why I also requested you to provide me with the turnover data for the teams. The fact that we have quite significant turnover. Some projects have been under-resourced for a longer period, which had kind of a detrimental impact on the project team morale and the motivation, because people just been working overtime for too long and it didn't make any sense anymore, because the efficiency really dropped significantly. But we are now changing this, and going forward we should really be in the control to be able to prevent this kind of situation from happening again. So again, maybe we can start just to basically I will just get your quick feedback what has been done in this regard. We have already created something for your teams. I know some of you have. I know some of you just have had time. That's fine. But let's start this communication. And also, very important in the same context, we need to have effective workflow managers. So that means for each team, or shall I say sub-team in the team A, and for some bigger project that can be project specific, but we need to have appointed responsible people and the backups that will be able to make sure that the workflow is being managed appropriately. And then actually I'll ask Lena to gather this information, then we can have a common meeting with the workflow managers, and to provide them with some examples and some guidance on how actually we would like this work management to look like in practice. Because again, it's not about just assigning the cases and just sending the email in the morning, pretty much ignored. Then it's actually a proactive approach in the workflow management, which is a key role in having an effective distribution of the workload and the completion of the daily workload. I'm sorry, I have issues with my throat. So, any comments so far?
Yeah. So Hrvoje, just a few things from me. Do you? We've already kind of started implementing some of these changes in the process itself, and updated some OGs. For example, in RSG7, we've now updated the OG that there's no back and forth between QCers and associates in terms of workflow. For example, medical approval step, distribution step, all of that is now with associates, so that should speed up the process. We've also tried to streamline the workflow management, at least in project team 1. So I think we definitely need what I would maybe propose is that all the project managers, and you said it already, that all the project managers have, not project managers, all the workflow managers have a meeting where they can present their current process for workflow management, and then we can see and try to unify it across all projects, well, especially those that are in the same database and that are doing the same stuff, because I think that the workflow management is being done differently across projects, so this can definitely speed up the process to make sure that they have one system that's best, because maybe some teams do it better than others, and then the other teams are doing it this way just because they do not know better. So we definitely need to have, I think, a separate call with all the workflow managers where they can present their workflow management practice that they currently do, and we can have an open discussion to discuss these details. And in terms of what you said regarding the ESIS and case counts, if you like, I can be with you when you discuss with Anna, because I do have some ideas of maybe how this can be better captured. So if you are fine with it, I can be with you, or you can invite me with your discussions with Anna.
Anyone is more than welcome to participate, and actually I'm also thinking to have one step back and to completely review the number of ESIS codes to see if we really need that level of details. I'd rather have less ESIS codes and then actually we can use it than the way it is now, where basically we have code for each little activity, and many times this is just confusing people. But that's a different discussion. Yeah. So absolutely, we need to put the workflow managers and in the same direction, but we need to have them first. I'm not sure at this point that we actually have appointed workflow managers across the whole project teams, which is fine because we have a lot of changes recently. But let's have them appointed. So I'm thinking. One workflow manager. I'm leaving this to you because I think you know the best what the approach should be, in a way, how many you need. Sometimes it makes sense to have just one workflow manager and the backup covering just multiple projects, because the number of cases, number of activities is such that it just is doable. For example, for general, we just need one project specific because it doesn't make sense to have them covering more projects, because it's the workload and the number of cases is already enough for them to keep them busy. The same applies for Ipsen, the same applies for, I believe, Biogen, I believe Hikma. But I leave it to you if you to propose this. Once we have the names, then we can make sure that we are kind of integrate and align the practice. Going back to what you said. What I need to see, what I need to have is the actual data on a monthly basis, so I can see what the trendings are. And in the next very near future, actually during these calls, I would like us to go through this trending on the base on a project team, and then on the base of the project if you need so, because that would mean, you know, we're able to control the process to see. If you're spending more time than we spend in the last couple of months, or we are actually targeting our goals, or we need to do something about goals, or we need to, or there is a very good explanation that explains why we are where we are. But having done this on a regular basis, and these meetings will be now regular, we will be in the control. So every time you're asked or I'm asked, and from the board, the reasons why the situation is as it is, we know the answer immediately. And we already have the plan, if you need to have a plan to improve things and to resolve it. So that gives us in a much better position. This is what I would like us to see, where I would like us to be in the near future.
Hrvoje, do you think it would be better if one person collated all this data across the project team rather than the project managers going into individual projects? And maybe the workflow manager could look to see how many cases people are doing per month.
Well, you have to analyze, because projects are not the same. And project managers have to lead this. They have to know the best, the contract, the codes and issues, because they are basically accountable for this. They need to know the budget very well, because they are now responsible for invoicing as well. So they should be the main responsible person for doing so. They can delegate certain activities as always, if they like collecting the data or just technical stuff, but the project managers will be asked these questions. You need to ask them to put something in place and propose what is the most appropriate approach for each particular project. I mean, again, by the book and by the nature of their role, they can and always should delegate certain activities, but they need to be under control.
Yeah, but Hrvoje, what I would maybe propose is that we take a step back, at least for the projects that we are hosting in our database. For example, RSG database. We can basically get the data on across projects, and we can analyze data across projects. We do not need to. I know it's harder for other clients where they're hosting their own database, but in our database, in RSG7, we can get the actual outputs with the case numbers, who did it when, on which date, and we can actually do the analysis maybe systematically, just to save time a little bit, at least for RSG7.
I think you should have both, really. I think you should have both on the project level and then project team level and then on the company level.
Yeah.
Because some projects might look very well or might be very bad, but if you kind of drown them in this big pool of data, they won't be able to pick it up.
Yeah.
So you have to be on a number of levels.
Yeah.
But again, the way I think and the way I imagine these things should be very simple. And once you put it in place, it should be really automatic. Project managers, they know what they expect once they set up. And then they get the data from whoever they need to get the data from. Is it the systems or trackers or a database? It's just technical thing, the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree, but it all comes back to the ISIS, because what we first need to establish is the proper way of tracking and make sure that every project team, every employee tracks their data per case correctly. Maybe ISIS is not the best, maybe we can have a different tool or whatever, but we first need to sort this out, because then it will be easy for the PMs to get the per case averages and all of that and oversee it. I know currently for a fact, at least for me, when I was a PM, it was kind of impossible for me to see how many hours are they spending per case, because the data in ISIS was completely unreliable, or it wasn't good enough to gauge this. So I think we need to start with ISIS and making sure that, and you already said it, you're aware.
Yeah,
so that's
this is
starting point.
Exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. So I will look at this ISIS, from the historical strategic point, but the project manager should really look at it as it is now. And this is pretty much independent from the organization, the workflow. And then we should start collecting the data on the basis of the as it is now. And in the future, if we improve it, that will actually just mean good things for us. We're just going to have more reliable, more precise data, but we need to start thinking and working on it now. So not the fact that ISIS codes are not the most perfect ones shouldn't be stopping us from actually using what we have now, because we have to have something. And shouldn't be stopping us from organizing the workflow better.
And just one more question in terms of the workflow managers. Currently, I know at least for our teams in Team 1, we do have workflow managers, but basically they're, as you said, they're just assigning who needs to do what and then do other tasks. Is the goal, because this is actually a full-time job to maintain.
Yeah, sometimes it is full-time, sometimes it isn't. I'm pretty much open for the suggestions here is sometimes we might just need to have pretty much full-time employees. Project coordinator, as Anwen suggested some time ago, we can call it in a different way regardless. Sometimes we can have people doing this thing in Rota, if it makes sense. I don't really care. I just care if it works, you know. So we can be flexible and have slightly different approach when it comes to the different project in terms of whether this is going to be full-time dedicated roles or rotation of the existing associates officers, but the actual approach should be the same.
Yeah, I agree.
If I'm answering.
I agree. The problem that I have now is then that this workflow manager is not accounted in our resource forecasts. For example, we are constantly doing overtime and constantly having shortage of people. So basically, whoever is doing currently workflow doesn't have the time to do workflow properly. He or she, they just assign cases in the morning, and then they have a pile of cases that they need to process or QC or whatever for that time. So what we need to do is account the workflow managers or workflow management in our resource forecast, so we can get that half a day FTE for workflow management, because at least for Team 1B, it's a half a day job. It's 4 hour a day workflow manager.
There is one tricky part here. Theoretically, if we organize the workflow better, there should be some free resources as a result of it. So I don't think we can just ask for more resources just because we are implementing workflow managers. But in some situations, we might need to. And I'm also thinking about that workflow management is actually not counted anywhere in our budgets. Maybe we should at least, maybe in a hidden way, start to include this in our budgets, in our future proposals. This is just the thought that I just came to my mind. Maybe it's completely ridiculous, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Because it is an important part of the case processing, and we don't seem to, basically calculate this at all when we send in proposals. So what do you think? And anybody's opinion is more than welcome.
It makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me as well. So as long as we are doing it then, because if we're actually putting it in the contract and we've got a workflow manager doing the role and we're not achieving the targets, then
there are different ways to do. We can include this time in a kind of hidden way, under different role, under project management role. Probably that would be the answer, but still, we have to put them in place.
Yeah.
And ideally, once we move to this very smart automated databases, it would be very limited effort required. But I don't see us being there in the next 6 months at least. So we need to start our work on this. So Marcella, she left. Okay. I felt she left. This is why I wanted to talk to her. So what do you think, Anna, Rebecca, Ivana?
Yeah, I agree, Hrvoje. I think certainly from our perspective in Team 1, the splitting of the team has certainly simplified things. So our workflow managers should be able to stay on top of things much better now. So Anwen and I are actually meeting with them, I think, next week, and so we'll put this up with them.
Okay. In terms of the monitoring the actual time per case and time per other activities, are we doing this now or not?
I don't think so. No, and again, actually, Anwen and I have got a PM team meeting on Monday, so I've been scribbling notes. We're going to bring it up with them then.
So maybe it would be good if you also include Igor, so you have the same approach across the team A, team 1, sorry.
Yes, we can. I think I'd rather chat with Igor separately, to be honest. So we.
I'll leave it to you.
Yeah,
I just think,
Yeah, we have Team 1 director of project meetings every few weeks, so we discuss me, Anwen, and Hannah between ourselves. So yeah, we can definitely discuss our ideas and approach across Team 1.
Good. So Ivana, I know we have something for Hikma, but also think that we have a room for improvement there.
Yes, very We have very basic calculations for all projects except MERS.
Yeah, so Hikma will be probably the first candidate to do so. And again, we can discuss in more details offline. I will discuss. I have separate meetings with each of you. But before we do that, please think about this. Think about the solutions. Think about the people. And anything that comes to your mind. So we can take it from there. We're going to have next meeting first week of July. I will be out of the office for the next 2 weeks. But I'll be available, especially for the second week when I won't be traveling. So that's one thing. So we need to start putting this in place while we're dealing with all other things. But that's quite important, and trust me, we're going to be asked this question. So let it to be ready, ready. Okay, so I asked also last time that, I mean, I'm sure you have, but just a kind of reminder that Jan and I should be invited to all annual meetings with clients or any other face-to-face meeting. It's very unlikely they would be joining it, at least for the most of it, but we would like to have it in our calendars. And for some clients, it might be just good for them to meet Jan, and also I should be introduced to some clients as well.
Oh, did you want to come to San Francisco?
Oh no.
Yeah,
I met Autogenics before, so that's fine. But just make sure that, by the way, when you said this meeting, have you already prepared the slides for that meeting, because I would like to review them.
No, they haven't sent the final agenda yet. We went through it yesterday, so Natalie and I will sort that out.
Yeah, okay. So I'll be probably going to happen next week when I'll be on location, but still share with me just for my information.
Okay.
Sorry, just to understand, this is not the annual official meeting. This is just the operational team meeting that they request on an ad hoc basis, right? That's how
it's not an official annual meeting. That kind of thing. We're not providing enough metrics, and it's just more training and going through processes.
So when you plan the annual meeting, this is when you invite us.
Okay. Yep.
And I was just about to say that we do not have an annual meeting for all of our projects in the budget. I know for a fact, for example, for mine, there is no annual meeting fee pretty much for any of the projects. So this is all. Yeah, go ahead.
Small, but sorry to interrupt, but
no, that's fine.
But I think we should, at the time of the extension, we should start including.
Yeah, agree.
And then you'll see for minor clients. Let's do it remotely, half a day. That's fine. But let's do it. I think it's very important for to have these annual meetings to kind of touch base on the overall performance of the project. Typically and ideally, that would be also the good time to discuss other business opportunities. So if it's not already included in the budget, please propose the inclusion at the time of the contract extension.
Will do.
And I'm doing the same.
And in terms of you and Jan's participation, will we include that fee in the cost as well? Or?
No.
No. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I will not be routinely invited to any annual meetings, and clients should not be charged for that unless of the QPPV.
Okay, so that's just the QPPV, or if there's no QPPV, Director of Projects and the PM.
I think Director of Projects should be invited, but again, it all depends. You are also very busy, so if the scope of the contract is small, you have confidence in your project manager.
Yeah.
You do not need to be there. If the contract is, let's say, important, or the client bigger, or potential business opportunities, or any issues, then you should show up already.
Okay.
That's my idea. I think the director of project should be involved in annual meetings, because this is the time when you kind of support the project managers and help maintain a good relationship with the client, and then on top of that, Jan or I might join, but most likely we won't. That's how I see it. Do you have any objections?
No, makes sense to me. I'll make sure that with the next updates to budgets in Team 1B that we propose this. Yeah.
That's applicable for all things. So let's please at least propose it. I know some clients will push back, but most of them won't after we explain. And I think it's very important to have the communication. And it has to be tailored to the actual needs of the project. Sometimes it's you know, Ibsen is not wanting us, what Rebecca, 2 days, right? Sometimes it's just a half a day remote call, but I think it's important to have it as a standard approach. Okay, let me check if I have anything else on my list for today. Another thing, I know that the latest version of the organogram, now we only have names in the line management structure, which is fine. But I would like us also to keep just one slide with the projects and project managers. This is what helps me when I'm assigning new projects. I do know at the moment all the projects, and not so much for Farmland, I must admit. But it's much easier if I have official version from you guys, especially because the number of projects will grow. And that's what I would like to use internally. So if you can just share with me the organogram for a project, which I think you already have, but just with the project managers and the projects they're responsible for. Is that okay?
Yeah. Will we include that in the official organogram that goes into the month? Oh, no. Okay.
Because we don't want to show this to the client and the inspector. That's just internal one.
Okay, so we should send you.
For me, I'll say for me and for us.
Okay.
Speaking of the new project, we have 2 new projects onboarding. One is the Eritech, and Anwen already knows about this. They're going to have visitors and auditors at the beginning of July. I believe you were going to be there for that audit.
Yes.
Yes. And I can support as well. I'm there. I will be there in July. That's going to Anwen's project team, and we are now looking for project manager for that project.
We've got Elizabeth has accepted the offer. Just seen an email.
She has.
Yes, she has, but she can't start until 3rd of September.
It's a good news.
But it's good news, yeah, very good news. Happy about that.
Things are getting better. Oh, finally, some good news. And we have the lady from Biogen that accepted the offer. This is what I'm saying. You know, we should be changing this paradigm, and basically we are a good place. We have to create a good place and a good working environment. People should be happy joining Prime Vigilance. I know, especially you guys on the call, are pretty busy and have been pretty busy and doing things that are not strictly within your role, which is also applicable for my role, but we are just halfway to the position where I believe everybody should be having enough support from their line managers to ensure that you can do your director of projects role appropriately. And there will be some changes, some more changes coming in August. The Rakan is joining us in August, which will free some resources from Ivana, and be getting people on board. And I think that we should be optimistic about about the future.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great news actually. So I'm going to interview the Italian guy on Friday. So we still have vacancies for project managers, which reminds me to repeat again. I know I'm kind of already boring you with this, but please look at your people, look at your teams. Identify, guys with great potential. We were going to get more and more projects onboarding, and I really would like to have our people within our teams that are working hard to give an opportunity to progress, and then maybe to step into the project management pursuit. I know for some it might be sooner rather than so some not so soon. But it's your job, and you can say the same thing to the project managers to look for those people, for these guys. We have a lot of young, brilliant guys that can and will be the future project managers at Prime Vigilance. So you don't need to wait any particular time of the of the year to tell me that there is someone who is performing very good or not, of course. But we really need to look into this. I mean, we are already in June, so 3 months from now we are going to start our appraisal process. So we're going to talk more about this, more details about this in just a couple of months. But again, any time of the year is good to propose some and to share some positive feedback about our teams, about our people. HR. I'm very frustrated at the pace that you're getting new people on board, as you might have been aware. So we had this meeting yesterday, and I think we still have 40 people that we're waiting for, which is making our job a little more difficult because we obviously are, at the way it seems, under-resourced, and not so much under-resourced that we can't even get people on board for the new projects. So this is challenging. While we are pushing HR, I understand that some limits that they have in terms of the resources that they have in the department, but still it has the direct impact on what we do. And so you have to, once you send the request, please just follow up on this regularly. And I agree with Tracy basically that the system is first in, first served. So the sooner you request your resources, the likelihood to get it is higher. I also said that if there is a priority, that I would be communicating this to them. At the moment, there are just two priorities. One is the Biogen project because of the specific needs that they have in terms of the language knowledge. And the other is the MPRP manager role because Olja resigned 2 weeks ago. Everything else is going to be first in, first served. So I guess my comment is just stand on top of this and try to. I don't know what much we can do except for chasing the HR and while having full compassion for the situation that they are in, we just don't have that option. We need to get people on board to be able to do our work. Okay, I've been talking too much already. It's already 50 minutes. So do you have any questions, Rebecca? I think we are on the top of the Ibsen situation. So let's do this today. So Ernesto can answer. Anything else? Anything urgent from anyone?
Hi, Hrvoje. Nothing urgent. I just wanted to check whether we can now start submitting the changes to the organogram, because there were some changes. I'm not sure how this works, but we already had some changes in the organogram.
Yeah, I mean the changes you can immediately apply whenever they happen. They can immediately apply.
This was done
and share to Martina. Martina in Prague in a copy. Mm-hmm. I believe the. I'm just not sure if HR will be informed through the organogram updates or maybe the best for the time being you can also copy the HR.
Hrvoje, I made some updates last week and I sent them to both Martina and HR, and Elaine came back to me and told me I didn't need to send them to her and that she would be updating Suzanne based on the organogram that Martina provides.
This is exactly what I wasn't sure. So just send to Martina, but please copy me in because I need to. I'm checking this. I want to be aware of the changes. It would be also nice if you could just outline the changes briefly in the body of the email, so just to know what happened, or highlight it somehow. I mean, if not too difficult. But don't wait. Don't wait. You can whenever there's a change. Shoot out the email to Martina. She will be then making these updates, I believe, on a weekly basis. Just copy me in. Okay.
And we have a slight issue for the clinician project manager replacement.
I mean, you can come and we can discuss this.
Yes. Thanks.
So we don't take anybody else's time.
I agree.
Anything from you, Hannah?
Nothing for me.
Good. Okay, thank you. So we'll talk again in 3 weeks. And while I'm away, so I said to Jan that everything that is regarding your project should be addressed directly with the director of projects. So you are in charge. I will be reading my emails, so anything urgent, anything that you really can't decide on yourself, on your own, give me a call. But don't do it on Thursday evening. Next Thursday evening I won't be available.
You know, on Friday
Only during the half time.
Oh, the football.
Yeah, I'm joking.
You know, the interview on Friday. If you make a decision on that day, that'd be great.
Yeah,
and then we can get moving next week.
I will be working all weekend, so don't worry. I will provide feedback immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that Nikolina Ceraj-Ceric is returning in September. She's also PM, and Ivana Pervan-Orlisec is returning as well. She's also a PM, so we will have a few more PMs in September as well. And I'm not sure, Hrvoje, are you aware, but I think Anna Bartulovic, she notified me that she's pregnant, so she will likely be at some point leaving for maternity leave.
I'm aware of this, and this is why I think we should. I trust me, believe it or not, I do take care of these things, and I'm aware of the fact that she's pregnant. I think this is why, as we already discussed, it's very likely that she'll be replaced by Nikolina.
Yeah.
Because Nikolina is the logical choice for this. We're still looking for another PM in the Team 1 to help with the. There's still one vacancy there. This is why we keep interviewing, and then we should keep interviewing for the PMs because we're gonna need more. I'm telling you, the number of the proposals, the number of the opportunities in the pipeline is increasing, so which is great. But that means that we will have to be more flexible and creative when it comes to the appointment of the project manager in the future. But that's primarily my thing. Don't worry. So thank you again for your time. Igor, I believe there's a couple of things you wanted to talk to me, so please stay because you're working from home today. So and then Ivan, I'll talk to you after I finish with Igor.
Okay.
Have a wonderful afternoon and speak to you soon.
You too. Thanks, Anne.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Lina, ti isto možeš ići pisat minutes.
Hey.
Ej, ajde, vidim da se nismo što spojili, idem ja ovo da tebi da rekao.
Može.
Da ne bi bilo, nismo znali.